On the morning of March 22nd, 2024, residents of Wasco, California woke up to a scene straight out of a nightmare. At just after 8 AM, an Amtrak train roared through the station at G Street and 7th, striking 48-year-old Horacio Ayala Peñalosa after he wandered too close to the tracks. Witnesses described how one moment he was there, walking his bike and chatting with someone on a nearby bench, and the next, he was gone, the violent impact leaving his body catastrophically torn apart. It was an image seared into their memories. But as horrifying as the incident was, what happened next would leave both eyewitnesses and investigators even more scarred. As emergency crews arrived to secure the scene, onlookers noticed another man, 27-year-old Rosendo Torres, walking among the wreckage. And what he did defies belief. Torres spotted one of the victim's severed legs on the track, picked it up, and in a grotesque act of disrespect, began parading it through the streets in broad daylight. Construction workers nearby recalled him sniffing it, swinging it in the air like a trophy, and even slamming it against a wall. And this wasn't just a fleeting moment of madness, though. Eyewitnesses say Torres, who already had a warrant out for his arrest, continued brandishing the leg in front of bystanders, waving it around and chewing on it, all while laughing and daring people to intervene. Disturbing video footage shows him eating the leg on the street, biting off pieces and screeching at passers-by. All of this happened just steps away from police and railroad investigators who were still processing the train strike. Kern County Sheriff's deputies, along with the railroad police, soon heard about what was happening and closed in. When asked whose foot he was carrying, Torres replied, "My own." The suspect was taken into custody near 7th and F, and the partially gnawed leg and foot were recovered. As would come to light, Torres was a homeless man who, just hours before the incident, was seen acting normally at a liquor store. After interviewing witnesses and reviewing CCTV footage, it was determined that Torres hadn't played a role in the victim's death, which was ultimately ruled accidental. Unbelievably, there just so happened to be an opportunistic cannibal nearby when the collision occurred. Torres was arrested on multiple other charges though, including the removal of human remains from outside a cemetery, destruction of evidence, and resisting or obstructing an officer. In handcuffs, he claimed that he was simply taking the leg to the hospital. Once booked into jail, additional charges were added for attempting to smuggle in controlled substances. It's believed they played a role in his decision-making that morning. While much of the media coverage focused on the bizarre aftermath of the crash, it's important to remember that at the center of this story was a man who lost his life. Horacio Ayala Peñalosa had lived in Kern County for many years, and his sudden death shocked those who knew him. Friends and neighbors described him as a quiet, hard-working man who largely kept to himself, but was well-liked in his community. In May 2024, just weeks after the incident, Torres entered a no-contest plea. He was sentenced to 1 year in county jail, with credit for time already served and good behavior. He's already back on the streets as we speak. Next, I want to talk about one of the most disturbing industries again: data brokers. This is the website of one of the biggest in the US, and they claim to be selling a staggering amount of our personal information. They claim to have over 300 data points per profile, which includes, on average, 3 emails, 3 addresses, 6 relatives, and 7 social media accounts. Recently, I showed you this report. If you actually buy a profile on someone from one of these data brokers, it's over 11 pages long. I find it infuriating that data brokers profit by selling all of this personal information without our consent, especially because they do absolutely nothing to protect us from scammers, spammers, and stalkers. It just frustrates me immensely that the only choice is between complete digital isolation or accepting companies profiting off my private life. There should be a better way. That's why I've turned to Aura, who's sponsoring today's video. Aura's great because they do all the hard work for you. They identify data brokers exposing your info and submit opt-out requests on your behalf. Data brokers hate Aura because of this. There are a few other services that do this too, but none of them do as much as Aura does for you. So if you're like me, and you don't want to completely isolate yourself digitally, but want to be able to fight back against these data brokers and other online threats, you can go to my link, aura.com/lazy, to try 14 days for free. That's enough time for Aura to start scrubbing your personal info off these data broker sites automatically. Raphael Graven, better known online as Jean Parmenov, or JP, wasn't always one of France's most talked about streamers. In his early years, he had served in the military, an institution where he struggled to fit in, and where he reportedly endured relentless bullying. But what Raphael lacked in social skills, he made up for with a big heart. Following his time in the army, he turned his attention to online platforms, playing games and chatting candidly with fans, and he was incredibly successful with it. By the early 2020s, Jean Parmenov had become a fixture of Twitch, where he amassed an impressive following of 670,000 viewers. Eventually, he migrated to Kick, a platform known for its looser moderation rules. There, his combination of humour and unpredictable challenge segments helped him build a huge audience. By 2023, he was the most watched French creator on the site, and regularly ranked among the site's global leaders. At first, the content seemed like typical internet showmanship. Light-hearted dares, over-the-top stunts, and long-running streams that played into the chaotic nature of Kick. But when JP began collaborating with two figures in particular, known as Owen Naruto Senazandotti and Safin Hamadi, the tone shifted. What began as edgy humour started to look more like harassment. On stream, Jean would be taunted, slapped, doused with liquids, shot with paintball guns at close range, subjected to shocks, and even throttled, with Naruto and Safin trying to set suffocation records. At one point, Naruto even had to stop Safin from choking JP, exclaiming, "Wait, he's gonna die." I'm not gonna show any of that footage here on YouTube, but trust me, it is very hard to sit through. Both Naruto and Safin were well aware that Jean suffered from heart problems, and yet they continued to subject him to more and more extreme treatment. The attacks weren't just physical, they were also psychological, with Jean's intelligence, speech difficulties, and desire to marry and start a family being the subject of endless ridicule. They once made and sold merch featuring the face of Jean's sick father without telling him, and invited teenage subscribers into the studio to laugh at his discomfort. They even laughed when Jean found out live on stream that his dog had died. His torment and exhaustion became part of the spectacle, and the crueler it got, the bigger the audience grew. Viewers tuned in daily, not just to watch Jean play games, but to watch him be broken down on camera, explode in a sudden burst of frustration, and then be put back in his place. Thousands laughed, cheered, and donated as the humiliation escalated over the course of months. What was framed as entertainment began to feel like a slow-motion train wreck, and through it all, Jean carried on streaming. According to reports, Naruto and Safin took over the channel, and the majority of the profits, leaving Jean financially dependent on them, while reminding him that without them, he'd wind up being homeless or worse. Whenever he tried to leave or refused to participate, they'd lock him out, steal his car, and harass his family. Though many assumed Jean was simply acting up for the camera, playing the part of the punching bag for views, others were concerned how real the torment appeared. In their minds, Jean was being manipulated. By his own admission, JP struggled to fit in. He was extremely lonely. He wanted friends, family, connection. In the minds of many, Naruto and Safin took advantage of that. So, when the journal Mediapart wrote an article about the situation and got the police involved, Jean protected them, telling detectives that all the violence was staged to create buzz. Yet despite his words, evidence suggests that he was more of a hostage than a willing participant. As things escalated, Jean, or Raphael, sent his mother a text, in which he wrote, "Hi Mum, how are you? Stuck for a bit in Naruto's death game. It's going too far. I feel like I'm kidnapped with their shitty concept. I'm fed up. I want to get out of here. The other guy won't let me. He's keeping me locked in." By August 2025, the cycle had reached its peak. Jean & Co. launched an ultra-marathon broadcast that stretched on for nearly 12 days. Viewers watched as he was beaten, forced to ingest toxic products, and constantly deprived of sleep. As days passed, he slurred words, struggled to keep moving, and was literally withering in front of everyone's eyes. And yet, the cameras kept rolling. His diminishing health was obvious to everyone, including those inside the room with him, with Naruto at one point stating, Say on camera right now that if you die tomorrow in the middle of a livestream, it's because of your state of health and not because of us." Jean initially refused, but Naruto kept pushing. "We're in the middle of a live show. You get angry, start screaming and go into cardiac arrest. People are going to take it out on us when it's due to your 46 years of miserable life." This was clearly an attempt to absolve themselves of any responsibility when, not if, the worst happened. On August 18th, with the on-screen counters showing almost 300 hours of continuous broadcast and over €36,000 worth of donations, Jean began exhibiting breathing difficulties, and at one point asked to be taken to the hospital. His request was ignored. Later, he collapsed live on camera, and instead of help, his so-called friends kept streaming before going to bed in the same room. Those tuned in sent donations, urging the others to check on JP. 50 minutes later, Naruto responded by throwing a water bottle at Jean's head while asking, "Is he dead?" When he didn't react, they checked his vital signs. The atmosphere became tense, and the stream cut to black. Hours later, Naruto made an announcement on Instagram. "Unfortunately, JP has left us. I love you, my brother, and we will miss you terribly." He also urged viewers not to share clips of Jean's final moments out of respect, which many interpreted as damage control. Following an autopsy, it was determined that there were no fatal injuries, no blow that killed Jean, and that his COD was likely medical and/or toxicological in nature. Yet despite having defenders, many believe that Naruto and Safine should still face criminal charges, arguing that their treatment of Jean likely exacerbated his medical conditions. Indeed, he had repeatedly stated that he was feeling increasingly stressed doing the livestreams, and near the end was constantly looking for ways out, yet the others kept finding ways to reel him back in. Others attributed the same blame to the thousands of people who tuned in day after day to laugh at Jean and financially contributed to his mistreatment. Indeed, if you scroll through any of the Jean Parmenoff uploads on YouTube, you'll find plenty of people making jokes at his expense and encouraging Naruto and Safine. Others still argue that Kick France, who were well aware of the Jean Parmenoff streams, were grossly negligent and should have shut them down rather than advertise them, which they did on social media time and time again, plastering Jean's bruised and muddied face on merch, comparing him to Deadpool, putting profits before people, and acting like a company straight from a Black Mirror episode. Kick has since banned Naruto and Safine's accounts, but though they initially took down the Jean Parmenoff channel as well, it has since been reinstated. Unbelievably, Kick themselves deleted all of the clips showing Jean's obvious torture, only leaving behind the ones which fit with their narrative of consent, all to protect their own image. Aiden Ross, one of Kick's biggest streamers, and Drake, who has business ties to Stake, the crypto gambling company behind Kick, announced that they would cover Raphael Graven's funeral expenses, which to me reeks of PR damage control. France's digital ministry blasted the platform's moderation, and the site is now facing a potential $49.5 million fine. French regulators Arcom have also been dragged into this. Their role is to regulate online content, but despite Mediapart warning them almost a year earlier about the streams, they sat on their hands. Now politicians are weighing in, pushing for new internet regulations like those recently implemented in the UK, essentially using Raphael's death as a pretext for greater surveillance. Following Raphael's passing, prosecutors opened an investigation, not into murder, but into what's known as abuse of weakness, a charge that can only apply when someone is manipulated or exploited, especially while in a vulnerable state. That investigation is still ongoing, though as of today, neither Naruto, Safine, or anyone else has faced criminal charges. Their lawyers continue to insist that Raphael passed naturally from health complications, and that he consented to everything that happened on stream. That's despite the fact that in France, you can't legally consent to being tortured, beaten, or seriously harmed. They're now playing the sympathy card, claiming to be the targets of cyberbullying. During Jean's funeral, which Naruto and Safine attended, JP's mother raised eyebrows when she spoke in their defense. Despite receiving Jean's final text message and watching her son's final stream, she said, "Naruto and Safine took good care of my son. just as I did. They have values. JP was able to do things with them that he wasn't able to do back home. They never mistreated him, except once in the gym. What happens in the livestream is in the livestream. What happens off the livestream is off the livestream. When they go home, they don't take their work home with them. In stark contrast, JP's sister described their behaviour as unacceptable. To some, the Jean Parmenov stream was a tragic accident, an exhausted but consenting man whose body finally gave out. But I think it's obvious that this was something much darker. In my opinion, and I stress opinion, Jean was broken down by a group of men much younger than him, both physically and mentally, for financial gain. He was beaten as a teenager, harassed during his years in the army, and exploited on stream by people pretending to be his friends. As one YouTube comment on Charlie's coverage of this story put it, he was killed on the inside before his actual death. And worryingly, it's now looking like he'll be let down by the system, too. Patreon supporters may remember me covering This Is Not a Cult.xyz in an exclusive segment. Well, there's since been an update, so for those of you who missed it, here's a recap. If you visit the ominous-sounding website, thisisnotacult.xyz, the only thing you'll be met with is a black screen with a play icon. No text, no context, just an eerie message in the address bar, and an invitation to click. The only thing hosted on this website is the dedicated video you've just seen, which has to be one of the more unsettling things I've watched in a while. It opens with silence and a static-filled screen. After almost 20 seconds, a close-up of what appears to be a mummified face fills half the screen. The nose appears flattened. The teeth jut out. The eyes are wide open, but vacant. The figure doesn't blink, doesn't breathe, doesn't move at all, but the changing camera angle and lighting indicates that this isn't a still frame. It's a genuine video recording made by someone standing over the figure. As for the audio, there are only 2 tracks, one a haunting gospel choir, and the other, which on first listen sounds like a chimp grunting and screaming. But after looping it for a few times, you start to get the impression that something's off. So let's reverse the audio. Okay, so definitely not chimp-like. If we speed it up slightly, it becomes even more clear. That confirms, in my mind, that the grunts are indeed the cries of a human being, layered atop a piece of music. In between the screams are rattling clangs, as if being made by someone in a cage, and the distinct sound of someone fiddling with recording equipment. There's since been a concerted effort to identify the angelic piece of music that plays in the background, with hundreds of people scouring YouTube and Spotify in search of this hauntingly beautiful track, but thus far, nobody's been able to find it. After repeated listens, I think the lyrics begin with, "He's my Lord, he's my saviour in this world, Prince of Peace." Typing those into Google doesn't yield any solid leads though, but then again, I'm not confident that my interpretation is even remotely accurate. As unsettling as this whole video is, if we look into the domain itself, we can see that thisisnotaccult.xyz is a bare-bones Wix premium site that was registered in Toronto, Canada back in 2023, but that's currently being hosted in Kansas City, USA. Browsing through the HTML code, we can see that there are a couple of Easter eggs hidden inside. 2 creepy, but obviously AI-generated images. Digging deeper, we can see that the site has an exposed but broken shopping page, which the creator seemingly forgot to hide. The mundane and clumsy setup of the site strongly indicates to me that it's the early breadcrumb of an ARG, or an eccentric digital art project. Still, it wouldn't be the first time that an analog horror series exploited genuine snuff audio and visuals. But in my honest opinion, as detailed as the figure is, its nose, or more specifically, the septum, appears extremely fake. Although I don't think these are prosthetics, because the figure remains far too still, I suspect that this is a prop head, similar to those made by Close Casket Studios. Perhaps one that's been modified, with glass beads put in the eye sockets. That, or it's a homemade papier-mâché creation. Because of the use of night vision, some have suggested that this was a bizarre marketing campaign for a game in the Outlast series. Some have speculated Outlast 2, though that game came out in 2017, and the website was registered in November 2023. So if correct, it would have had to have been for 2024's The Outlast Trials. If that's the case, then this attempt at viral marketing didn't pay off, as I haven't seen many content creators covering thisisnotaccult.xyz. There's also no link to the game on the website, and I doubt a professional developer would use Wix. It's more likely that the grainy night vision aesthetic was used to simply mask the more unrealistic parts of the prop itself, and to make the visuals more spooky. Interestingly, there was a musical called Not a Cult, which held performances in Toronto during November 2024, exactly 1 year after the website appeared. Given that the site was registered in Toronto, it would be a huge coincidence if it weren't connected to the show. Thing is, from what I've read, the musical's described as a dark and camp comedy, a far cry from the website's grim and joyless tone. There was also this Atlanta-based series of events in July 2024. Its name? This is Not a Cult. From what I can tell though, it was an immersive experience run by the You Did This theatre company, in which the audience could build their own cult together. Again, the show emphasized the comedy of cultdom by urging participants to drink the Kool-Aid, so although the name matches, and the timing broadly syncs up with the creation of the website, I'm leaning towards this being yet another coincidence. One of the few YouTubers who has covered this mystery is Podrocker, and while browsing the comment section beneath his video, I noticed this user, him, leaving ominous remarks. Clicking on his channel, him's bio links to thisisnotaccult.xyz. The only video on his channel is this psychedelic upload, which, when sped up, reveals a hidden message. Following that discovery, more hidden elements of the site were unearthed. In June of this year, Mag2K made a post over on Reddit detailing how if you add /WeFoundYou to the URL, a new page reveals itself, which seems to scroll on infinitely. The title of the page? 1H, 1M, 1S. Likely 1 hour, 1 minute, 1 second, but also him. Since covering this a few months back, the mystery of thisisnotaCult.xyz has been resolved. In a post over on the r/internet mysteries subreddit, user YarmFace00 explained, "I genuinely don't know if this is old news, since I'm not super active on this sub, and I don't know if this fully warrants the solved flair, since there may be more to it, but I thought I'd post about this in case no one else has." Tonight was a Scream Unseen showing at AMC Theatres, which just means that you get to see an early screening of an unreleased film for like $5, the only caveat being that you don't know what the movie is when you buy your ticket. Tonight's movie, spoiler alert, was Bring Her Back, the follow-up A24 film by the directors of Talk to Me. During the opening titles, a brief clip of a creepy, wriggling fetus creature with a grainy filter played, ending with the text, "thisisnotaCult.xyz" popping up on screen. I remember a lot of YouTubers talking about this website a few months ago, and I wasn't sure if any more progress had been made into figuring out its deal, but it looks like it was a piece of viral marketing for this movie. There are similar creepy VHS footage scenes in the film itself as well, and without spoiling too much, decomposing corpses are pretty central to the whole story. Well, that thankfully confirms that this isn't a real corpse, and that the website was indeed a marketing campaign. Not for the Outlast trials like I guessed, but for the horror movie Bring Her Back, directed by the Raka Filippo brothers, who definitely have a substantial amount of ARG experience under their belts, having played a significant creative role in Ash vlogs. Indeed, eagle-eyed viewers noticed another URL hidden within the movie, which directed them to a Russian dark website, supposedly selling resurrection footage and evil blood, with a timer for users to make offers within. I'm personally pretty impressed by this marketing campaign. It's not only aesthetically disturbing, but extremely intricate, with hidden clues and iconography that are still being discovered. So though I don't typically cover ARGs on this channel, I thought I might make an exception for this one. Though I'd still like to know what that piece of choir music is. In 2011, two men from Pennsylvania received separate emails from their friend, Jack, referencing events that had either just happened or that only he could have known about. There was just one problem. Jack was dead. Jack Froese was a 32-year-old man from Dunmore, known by friends and family for his sarcastic sense of humour, his warmth, and his deep passion for life. In June 2011, Jack passed away suddenly from heart arrhythmia. His death came as a devastating shock to those close to him, and like many people who lose someone suddenly, his loved ones were left grappling with grief, unanswered questions, and the lingering desire for one more conversation. Several months after Jack's death, in November 2011, one of his closest childhood friends, a man named Tim Hard, was browsing through his inbox when he noticed an email with a concerning subject line.
"I'm watching."
Even more eerie was that the sender was Jack. A little freaked out, Tim opened the email.
"Did you hear me? I am at your house. Clean your fucking attic."
The body of the message hit Tim like a ton of bricks. He and Jack had spent plenty of time joking around in the attic, and on one of Jack's final visits before his death, they had laughed about how messy it was up there. Jack even joked that he would clean it if Tim wouldn't. No one else could have known that detail. To Tim, the email felt far too specific to be coincidence. Desperate for answers, he replied, but received no response. Soon after, Jack's cousin, Jimmy McGraw, also received a message from him while he was still deeply in mourning.
"Hey Jim, how you doing? I knew you were gonna break your ankle. Tried to warn you. Gotta be careful."
Jimmy had indeed broken his ankle just a week before that message arrived, long after Jack had passed away, and the strange timing of the email made it all the more difficult to dismiss. Like many unexplained digital events, theories abound. Given his sense of humour, the most rational explanation is that Jack had written drafts or scheduled emails that only sent after his death. But Jack wasn't aware that he was about to die. His passing had been sudden and unexpected, and he wouldn't have had a reason to preemptively write the messages. Their specificity, with one referring to an event that occurred after he passed, seemed to rule this theory out. Another possibility is that someone hacked or gained access to Jack's emails and sent the messages as a cruel prank. However, Jack was tech-savvy, hadn't shared his password with anyone, and there was no evidence that someone had illicitly accessed his account. And even if they had, what would be the point of it? Certainly not infamy, as they never came forward and stopped sending the messages abruptly. That, along with the personal nature of the content, with the first email referencing a conversation that Jack alone knew about, makes this explanation unsatisfying. Some of Jack's friends and family believe that the emails were a form of communication from beyond the grave. To them, the messages felt less like the work of a troll, and more like personal reassurances from Jack himself, designed to comfort those that he left behind. But skeptics suggest that grief can make people interpret coincidences as meaningful. The Jack Frost emails have become one of the most famous modern ghost stories on the internet, and in a world where our identities live on digitally long after we're gone, this mystery forces us to confront questions about technology and mortality. Though some websites delete the accounts of deceased users after receiving proof of death, or after long periods of inactivity, others allow them to gather dust and become part of the great digital graveyard, perhaps leaving them vulnerable to access. Though some view the messages as disturbing, for Jack's cousin Jimmy, they've been more of a comfort than anything else. "I like to think that Jack sent them," he said. "It's like he's gone, but still trying to reach out, trying to tell me to move forward, to feel better." Even Jack's mother chose to see them as a kind of gift. "I saw they made some people happy," she said. "They upset some people too, but at least people were still talking about him." That quote has led some to come up with a new theory, that the person behind the emails was actually Jack's own mum. Given his sudden passing, his accounts likely would have still been open on his laptop. While cleaning house, she may well have come across the open email tab and thought that by sending the messages, she might be able to cheer up his friends and keep his memory alive, and didn't anticipate the amount of tension the story would attract, nor the amount of pushback. Until proven one way or the other, the Jack Frost emails remain an eerie piece of internet folklore. I first learned about them over on the Chill Fuel YouTube channel. He covers a wide range of internet mysteries with a really cool pixel art style. Be sure to check him out through the link down below. A huge thank you to my supporters here on YouTube and over on Patreon, especially my biggest supporters: Holly Lyons, Thomas Almond, Alana Pons, Asiamina, Alicia 1996 V, Azrael Warakai, Aðalsteinn Traustason, Colin Monsma, Connor Louthan, Emzetz, Farewelltattoosjaxfl, George Lopez, Gina Valera, Gracearchie, Hamish, John Stewart Muller, Lucy Kushinada, Michelle F. Granfield, Mistyblue Longie, Orlando Torres, Peter Lulgjuraj, Sviso Skivcool, TNS Mum, Terry Ford, and Yokai. Thank you guys so much for your continued support. Remember to hit that like button, and I'll see you all again very soon.